Have you ever wondered why life keeps throwing challenges your way, yet somehow you always rise? Why do others crumble under pressure, yet you keep moving forward even when the odds are stacked against you? It's not luck. It's not chance. And it's certainly not a coincidence. You are built differently. Maybe you grew up in a family that believed you had to be tough, that life would test you, but you couldn't break. Or maybe you faced setbacks, heartbreaks, and moments that should have crushed you, but somehow you kept going. If that sounds familiar, there's a reason. And it's not because you're just strong. It's because you're blessed. See, a woman blessed by God doesn't crumble when life gets hard. She rises. She's been shaped by storms, yet walks through life with a quiet confidence that others can't quite explain. She doesn't chase approval, yet her presence commands respect. She doesn't beg for love, yet she attracts people who see her worth. And here's the truth. You may not even realize how powerful you are. In this video, I'm going to reveal 8 powerful signs that prove you are stronger, wiser, and more resilient than you realize. These signs aren't just theories. They're real, practical insights that will change the way you see yourself. If you've ever felt misunderstood, undervalued, or forgotten, stay with me. Because what you're about to hear could be the reminder you've been waiting for, the proof that your journey has never been a mistake, but a masterpiece in progress. And before we begin, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like life was testing you beyond your limits? If so, share your story in the comments. Your journey may inspire someone else to keep going. Now, let's begin. 1. Owning your power with quiet confidence. There's something magnetic about a woman who doesn't need to prove herself, yet everyone knows her presence commands respect. She isn't the loudest in the room, nor the one trying hardest to stand out. Instead, there's a quiet strength in her that makes people pause. They notice her, not because she's trying to be noticed, but because her energy speaks for itself. You've probably met someone like this. Maybe you've felt it yourself, that unshakable calmness when you refuse to bend under pressure. When people challenge you, doubt you, or question your worth, yet you stand firm, unbothered. Not because you're cold, but because you know who you are, and no one can take that away from you. There's a story of a woman I once knew. She worked in a corporate office where being bold and outspoken seemed like the only way to get ahead. Colleagues around her played the politics game, loud voices, exaggerated gestures, and constant self-promotion. But she never joined that race. She kept her head down, stayed focused, and delivered results. When promotions came around, no one expected her to rise. Yet she did. Quietly, steadily, her work spoke louder than their noise. But here's what struck me most. After her promotion, someone asked how she managed to stay so composed when people doubted her. She smiled and said, "I knew my worth long before they did." That's what quiet confidence looks like. Knowing your value so deeply that you no longer feel the need to prove it. Women like this don't chase validation. They don't shrink themselves to make others feel comfortable. They don't need to be aggressive or loud to show their strength. Instead, they radiate calm authority. This kind of presence isn't built overnight. It's earned through discipline, self-awareness, and resilience. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." A confident woman knows this truth well. When life challenges her, she doesn't panic or lash out. She pauses, breathes, and chooses her response carefully. That's power. The power to control your reactions even when emotions try to pull you in every direction. Imagine you're faced with criticism, unfair, cutting words that feel personal. Most people either explode in anger or crumble in self-doubt. But not her. She listens, absorbs what's useful, and discards the rest. No drama, no defensiveness. She knows that her worth isn't defined by someone else's opinion. It's rooted in who she is. And no insult can shake that. There's something deeply beautiful about a woman who stands in her truth this way. She doesn't waste energy convincing others to see her value. Instead, she focuses on her path, trusting that those meant to recognize her strength will see it, and they always do. This kind of confidence isn't arrogance, it's grace under pressure. It's a quiet fire that burns steady, no matter how fierce the wind blows. And this fire doesn't just protect her, it inspires others. People gravitate toward her, drawn not by what she says, but by how she carries herself, with a calmness that says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to show it. If you've ever felt like you needed to shout louder, prove yourself harder, or become someone you're not just to be seen, let me tell you this, you don't. The strongest women are not those who fight to be noticed. They are the ones who refuse to let the world shake their belief in themselves. A woman who owns her power doesn't let circumstances define her. She knows that confidence isn't about controlling what happens. It's about mastering her response. It's about walking away when something doesn't serve her. It's about trusting her instincts, even when others question her choices. And most of all, it's about standing tall, knowing she is enough, exactly as she is. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's the truth every strong woman lives by. So the next time you doubt your worth, pause. Remember who you are. The woman you're becoming doesn't need to shout to be seen. She doesn't need to prove herself to anyone. Because when you truly know your value, the world will see it too. And when they do, you won't have to demand respect. Your presence will command it. You are powerful. Not because you're loud, but because you're steady. Not because you dominate the room, but because you don't need to. And that quiet strength, it's what makes you unforgettable. 2. Turning setbacks into your greatest comeback. There's a kind of woman who doesn't crumble when life knocks her down. She rises stronger. Every setback she faces, she turns into a stepping stone. While others see failure as an ending, she sees it as an opening, a chance to rebuild, refine, and return sharper than before. I once knew a woman like this. Her name was Clara. She had worked for years in a demanding corporate job, pouring her energy into her career. Late nights, endless deadlines, she gave it her all. Yet one morning, with no warning, she was let go. Her position eliminated. Just like that, her years of effort seemed wasted. Most people would have spiraled into bitterness, asking, "Why me?" But Clara didn't. She allowed herself to feel the sting, then she rose. Not in anger, but with purpose. Instead of dwelling on what she'd lost, she turned her focus to what she could build. She remembered a passion she once ignored, interior design. For years, she had brushed it aside, telling herself it wasn't practical. But now, with no job tying her down, she leaned into it. Starting small, she designed spaces for friends and family. Word spread. Soon, clients were seeking her out, and her talent flourished. The career she thought she lost? It led her to something greater. A life that aligned not just with her skills, but with her soul. Clara's success wasn't luck. It was resilience. The kind that refuses to be defeated by failure. She knew something powerful. Setbacks aren't designed to destroy you. They're designed to redirect you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Clara understood this. Instead of resisting what had happened, she embraced it. She refused to waste energy fighting her circumstances. Instead, she asked herself, "What can I create from this?" That mindset is what separates the strong from the defeated. Most people see failure as a wall, something to bang their heads against, to dwell on. But a wise woman knows that every wall has a door if she's willing to build it herself. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about deciding that the pain won't define her. When rejection comes, and it will, she doesn't waste time chasing after what's already left. When one opportunity closes, she doesn't beg for it to reopen. She walks away, trusting that something better is waiting. And it always is. But this kind of strength doesn't appear overnight. It's built through practice, through choosing courage in moments when fear would be easier. It's the decision to rise when self-doubt whispers that staying down would hurt less. I remember a woman who faced a devastating divorce. She had built her life around her family, pouring her heart into her role as a wife. When her marriage ended, she felt like she had lost everything: her home, her identity, her future. For weeks, she stayed hidden behind closed doors, convinced that her life had unraveled. But one morning, she walked outside. Not because she felt strong, but because she refused to give up on herself. She started small: a walk around the block, a journal entry filled with half-finished sentences, a trip to the grocery store where she forced herself to smile at strangers. Each step felt tiny, almost pointless, but she kept moving. And one day, something shifted. She no longer felt like a woman who had lost. She felt like a woman who was becoming, not rebuilding her old life, but creating something stronger, something new. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." That's what a powerful woman understands, that every setback is an invitation to rise. Pain has a purpose, to build you, not break you. And when you start to see it that way, life's disappointments lose their power to destroy you. There's a reason some women seem unshakable, why they carry themselves with quiet strength. It's not because they've had it easy. It's because they've faced storms that should have shattered them, yet they refuse to let those storms define them. When things fall apart, she doesn't waste her energy asking why it happened. Instead, she asks herself one question: what now? And that question becomes her power. Because a woman like her doesn't just survive, she reinvents. She doesn't cling to what's been lost. She focuses on what she can create. She knows that setbacks aren't endings. They're beginnings in disguise. And that's what makes her unstoppable. 3. Finding your calm in life's chaos has a way of creeping in quietly, like a sudden storm that darkens the sky before you even notice the clouds. One minute, everything feels stable, and the next, your world feels like it's spinning, out of control. Plans unravel. People disappoint you. Problems stack higher than you can handle. In moments like these, most people panic. They rush to fix everything at once, overwhelmed, exhausted, unsure where to begin. But a strong woman moves differently. She doesn't react with fear. She pauses, breathes deeply, and steps back. Not because she's ignoring the problem, but because she refuses to let the chaos dictate her state of mind. Imagine walking through a crowded market. Noise everywhere, people pushing past, voices rising. Some get caught in the rush, moving faster and faster just to keep up. But one woman moves slowly, steadily, unbothered by the commotion around her. She doesn't rush because she knows her pace won't change the chaos. Only her focus can. That's calmness in its purest form, choosing stillness when the world feels loud. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." A wise woman understands this. She knows that most things, delays, rejections, misunderstandings, are beyond her control. But her response? That's always hers to command. It's not about pretending. Life isn't hard. It's about mastering the art of staying grounded when things get rough. Instead of drowning in frustration, she anchors herself in perspective. She knows that stress thrives in the mind, and the quickest way to weaken it is to refuse to feed it. This calmness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When arguments rise, she doesn't rush to defend herself. When plans fall apart, she doesn't waste time blaming others. And when people disappoint her, she doesn't let bitterness harden her heart. Instead, she practices detachment, not from love or compassion, but from the need to control what isn't hers to control. It's like standing in the ocean. The waves will come, some gentle, some fierce, but the woman who plants her feet deeply in the sand remains steady. She doesn't fight the water. She flows with it, trusting her strength will hold. A woman like this doesn't just survive the chaos. She thrives in it. Because she's learned to focus on what matters most, her own peace. She understands that true calm isn't about avoiding life's storms. It's about learning to carry stillness inside her, no matter what the world throws her way. But calmness isn't just about silence, it's power in action. A calm mind makes better decisions. A calm heart protects itself from bitterness. A calm presence influences others without a single word. Imagine two women facing the same crisis. One spirals, overwhelmed by fear, consumed by worst-case scenarios. The other moves with quiet focus, clear-headed, centered, and deliberate. She doesn't waste energy on panic because she knows calmness sharpens her strength. And that strength gives her an undeniable presence, one that others can't help but notice. Seneca once wrote, "If a man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favorable." The same is true for a woman without calmness. Without inner stillness, every inconvenience feels like a disaster. Every disagreement feels like a threat. Every challenge feels impossible. But a calm woman? She knows her direction. She doesn't waste her energy fighting winds she can't control. Instead, she adjusts her sails, shifting course when necessary, trusting that her calm focus will always guide her forward. There's a quiet beauty in a woman who doesn't let the chaos break her. While others run frantic, she remains composed. While others burn out, she preserves her energy. And while others react impulsively, she moves with purpose. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, buried under pressure, or drowning in uncertainty, remember this: calmness is a choice, a practice, a strength that grows stronger every time you refuse to let the noise shake you. So the next time life feels chaotic, when the deadlines pile up, when people let you down, when your emotions feel heavy, pause, breathe, remind yourself that peace isn't something you find, it's something you create. And the more you practice calmness, the stronger you'll become. 4. Trusting your inner voice. When no one else does, somewhere deep inside you, there's a voice, quiet yet unmistakable. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply whispers, nudging you when something feels off, warning you when a situation doesn't align with your path. That voice is your greatest guide, but only if you trust it. The challenge is that the world rarely encourages you to listen. People will tell you to be logical, to weigh the facts, to rely on what you can see and measure. But the strongest women know that wisdom doesn't always wear logic's face. Sometimes, it's a quiet knowing, a feeling that doesn't make sense on paper, but makes perfect sense in your heart. Have you ever felt uneasy in a room full of smiles? Or sensed a shift in energy when someone walked in, even when their words seemed harmless? That's your intuition speaking, a gift that has been sharpening itself through every experience, every heartache, every lesson you've learned. It's a wisdom that can't be taught, only trusted. But trusting it isn't always easy. Doubt sneaks in. Fear whispers that you're overthinking. And worst of all, people around you, even those you love, may question your instincts. That's when the battle begins, between what you feel and what others insist is right. A woman who trusts herself doesn't argue with those doubts. She simply chooses to believe what she knows. When something feels wrong, she doesn't wait for proof. She walks away. Not because she's afraid, but because she values her peace more than she fears judgment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." A woman who guards her inner voice understands this deeply. She knows that listening to her intuition isn't just about making good decisions. It's about protecting her mind from confusion, her heart from manipulation, and her energy from those who drain her. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path looks clear, the kind of road people tell you is safe. But something feels off. There's no warning sign, no obvious threat. Yet your instincts whisper, "Don't go." The other path? It's uncertain, unfamiliar, yet somehow it feels right. A woman who trusts herself knows which path to take. Not because it's easier, but because she knows her spirit never lies. This kind of self-trust is powerful. It allows you to say no without guilt, to walk away without regret, and to pursue what feels right, even when others don't understand. There's a certain elegance in a woman who listens to herself this way. She doesn't need to explain. Her choices, her calmness says it all. She moves with quiet conviction, confident that her path will unfold as it's meant to. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That mastery begins with learning to trust your own voice, especially when it's hard. When your instincts tell you someone's words don't match their actions, believe it. When your heart tells you a relationship is draining you, respect it. When your spirit tells you a situation is wrong, trust it, even if no one else sees it yet. It's easy to silence that voice, to tell yourself you're imagining things, that you're being too cautious, too sensitive. But ignoring your instincts comes at a price. It leaves you stuck in places where you don't belong, trapped in relationships that drain your soul, or chasing opportunities that were never meant for you. A wise woman doesn't need endless reasons to justify her decisions. She moves when her heart says move. She stays when her spirit feels safe. And when something feels wrong, no matter how much sense it seems to make, she walks away. This kind of trust doesn't come from luck. It's earned through practice, by listening to that quiet whisper again and again until it grows louder than your fears. And each time you follow it, even when it's hard, you strengthen your belief in yourself. That's why a woman who trusts her instincts feels different. People sense her certainty. She doesn't need to shout her boundaries. They're written in her presence. She doesn't need to justify her choices. Her confidence speaks for her, and when she speaks, her words carry weight, because they come from a place of inner clarity. If you've ever doubted yourself, if you've ever ignored that quiet voice and paid the price, know this: your instincts haven't failed you. They've been waiting for you to listen. And when you do, you'll realize something powerful. That inner voice isn't just yours. It's wisdom, shaped by every experience you've survived, every lesson you've learned, and every truth you've uncovered. So trust it. Trust yourself. The answers you're seeking, they're already inside you, waiting for you to believe. 5. Growing stronger. Through every scar, some wounds don't leave visible marks, yet they shape you just the same. There's a certain strength found only in women who have known heartbreak, betrayal, and silent struggles. They've faced nights where the weight of life felt unbearable. Yet somehow, they kept going. Not because they weren't hurt, but because they refused to let that pain define them. I remember a woman named Elena. She was the kind of woman who seemed to carry light wherever she went. Her laughter was soft, yet contagious. Her presence felt warm, like walking into sunlight after a cold day. People admired her for her kindness, her grace. But what they didn't know was what it took for her to become that way. Years before, Elena had built her life around a man who promised her everything: love, loyalty, a future. She believed in him, trusted him, and gave him her heart completely. But one evening, her world unraveled. She discovered that the promises he made were empty, that while she was busy loving him, he was betraying her. It shattered her. Not just because of what he did, but because of what she believed. She had built her life on his words, and now that foundation was gone. She didn't know who she was without him. For weeks, she barely spoke. She moved through her days like a shadow of herself, smiling politely but feeling hollow inside. Every memory replayed in her mind like a cruel reminder of what she had lost. But something shifted one morning. She stood at her bathroom mirror, staring at her reflection, eyes tired, face pale. And then she noticed something. The faintest scar on her collarbone, a reminder of a childhood accident. She remembered that day vividly, the fall, the pain, the stitches. At the time, she thought that scar would ruin her beauty. But over the years, she had stopped noticing it. It had become part of her, a quiet reminder that she had healed before. That morning, she realized something powerful. Heartbreak was no different. It hurt, yes, deeply. But just like that scar, this pain wouldn't define her. It would become part of her story, a mark of what she had endured and survived. She began to reclaim herself. Slowly at first. She stopped, blaming herself for his betrayal. She forgave, not to excuse what he did, but to free herself from the weight of it. Each morning, she chose to get up, to breathe deeply, to remind herself that her life was still hers to shape. And over time, she didn't just heal, she transformed. The kindness that people admired in her, it wasn't weakness, it was strength. The warmth she carried, it wasn't effortless. It was born from understanding what it feels like to be cold. Her strength came not from avoiding pain, but from surviving it. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials." A woman who grows stronger through her scars understands this. She knows that pain isn't something to hide, it's something to honor. Women like Elena don't pretend they were never hurt. They don't erase their past. Instead, they carry their scars like quiet armor, reminders that no matter how deeply life tried to break them, they refuse to stay broken. This kind of strength doesn't make her hard. It makes her whole. She doesn't build walls around her heart. She simply learns to open it more carefully. She doesn't avoid love. She just refuses to accept less than what she deserves. And when someone asks how she remains so strong, she doesn't give a long explanation. She simply smiles because she knows that strength isn't something you shout about. It's something you live. If you've ever been hurt, if you've ever felt like your pain has left you broken, know this: your scars are not signs of weakness. They are evidence that you have faced battles others will never understand. And yet you're still standing. A strong woman doesn't hide her scars. She embraces them. Not to seek pity, but to remind herself that she is living proof that pain doesn't win unless you let it. And when life tries to hurt her again, and it will, she won't crumble because she's already learned that nothing, no matter how painful, has the power to break her spirit unless she gives it permission. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The strongest women know this truth. They refuse to let pain harden their hearts or steal their softness. Instead, They carry their scars with quiet pride, knowing that those marks aren't reminders of what hurt them. They're reminders of what couldn't destroy them. So when you see a woman who seems to glow with quiet strength, don't assume her life has been easy. Her strength didn't come from comfort. It came from survival. And if you've ever wondered whether you're strong enough to face your own pain, remember this: if you've made it this far, you already are. 6. Believing in your journey, even when it feels uncertain. The hardest part of walking your own path is that it often doesn't make sense while you're in it. One moment, everything feels aligned. Your efforts are paying off. Your goals feel within reach. And then suddenly, something shifts. Plans fall apart. People let you down. And you're left wondering if you've been moving in the wrong direction all along. But here's the truth. Uncertainty isn't proof that you're failing. It's proof that you're growing. And the strongest women know this. There was a woman named Maria who built her life on careful planning. She mapped out her career, her relationships. Everything seemed structured, safe, predictable. But life has a way of laughing at our plans. Out of nowhere, her company downsized. The job she had poured herself into was gone. Suddenly, the future she had built so carefully disappeared overnight. At first, Maria felt paralyzed. Fear wrapped itself around her chest, whispering that she had wasted years on a path that led nowhere. But somewhere in the quiet of her mind, another thought appeared. Small, but steady. What if this isn't the end? What if this is the beginning of something better? That thought didn't erase her fear, but it gave her courage. She decided that instead of waiting for another opportunity to find her, she would create her own. With no roadmap and no guarantees, she started her own business. The first few months were brutal. Long days, uncertain income, self-doubt creeping in like a shadow. But she kept going. One morning, she landed her first major client, then another. And before she knew it, the life that once seemed shattered had rebuilt itself into something stronger, something that fit her better than her old life ever had. Maria didn't succeed because things were easy. She succeeded because she trusted her path, even when it didn't make sense. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." A wise woman understands this truth. She knows that closed doors aren't signs of failure. They're signs that her path is shifting, guiding her towards something greater. But trusting that path requires patience, and that's the hardest part. When things feel uncertain, the mind rushes to fill the silence with doubt. Fear tells you to panic, to question everything, to give up. But a strong woman knows better. She understands that growth is rarely comfortable, and uncertainty isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. She doesn't waste energy fighting what she can't control. Instead, she asks herself a powerful question. What is this teaching me? And that question changes everything. A woman like this doesn't need everything to make sense in order to keep moving. She knows that some seasons are for planting and others are for waiting, but both are part of her path. She doesn't rush results, doesn't force what isn't meant for her. Instead, she moves with quiet faith, trusting that what's meant for her will always find her, even if it doesn't arrive the way she expected. Seneca once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult." A strong woman takes risks, not because she's fearless, but because she refuses to let fear keep her small. If you've ever felt like your life is stuck, like your hard work isn't paying off, or your efforts aren't being noticed, don't lose hope. The quiet seasons, the moments of doubt, they aren't wasted time. They're preparation. They're building you into the woman you need to become for what's ahead. And when things feel uncertain, when the future seems unclear, remember this: uncertainty isn't a warning sign. It's a reminder that your story is still unfolding, and the path you're walking, no matter how unfamiliar, is leading you exactly where you're meant to be. You may not see it yet, but trust it, because a woman who keeps going, even when she doesn't know the outcome, is a woman who will always rise, not because she has all the answers, but because she refuses to give up before she finds them. 7. Embracing who you are. Without apology. A woman who knows her worth doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She doesn't soften her voice to avoid standing out. She doesn't dim her light to keep from shining too brightly. She simply exists, boldly, authentically, and without apology. But that kind of presence isn't something you're born with. It's something you choose, and it's a choice that takes courage. There's a moment every strong woman faces, the moment she realizes that blending in is exhausting, that constantly adjusting herself, her voice, her opinions, her presence, just to fit into spaces that weren't meant for her, is draining her energy. And when that moment comes, she makes a decision to stop apologizing for being exactly who she is. This decision isn't loud. It's quiet, but powerful. It's the moment she no longer explains herself when she says no. The moment she stops justifying her goals, her choices, her personality. The moment she realizes she doesn't need permission to take up space. And from that point forward, she carries herself differently. There's no arrogance in her, but there's no hesitation either. She walks like a woman who's decided she's enough, not because anyone told her so, but because she finally believed it herself. This kind of self-acceptance is magnetic. It draws people in, not because she's perfect, but because she's whole. She's done hiding parts of herself to make others happy. She's finished apologizing for her opinions, her intensity, her ambitions. She refuses to shrink for anyone. And that confidence leaves an unforgettable impression. But self-acceptance doesn't come without resistance. People will question you. They'll label your confidence as arrogance, your strength as stubbornness, your boundaries as selfishness. Why? Because some people only feel comfortable when others stay small. When a woman stops apologizing for being herself, it unsettles those who haven't yet found that courage. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." A strong woman understands this. She knows that authenticity isn't always easy. It invites criticism. But she chooses to stand firm anyway. There's beauty in a woman who refuses to hide her strength. She doesn't apologize for her bold ideas or for dreaming bigger than what others expected of her. When she speaks, her words carry weight. Not because she's trying to impress, but because she believes in what she's saying. And when she loves, she does so fully, without fear of seeming too much. A woman like this doesn't chase approval. She doesn't beg people to understand her. She doesn't waste time explaining her boundaries or convincing others to respect her values. Instead, she walks away from anything that forces her to shrink, trusting that the right people will accept her as she is. And that's the power of a woman who owns her presence. She doesn't move through life quietly hoping to be noticed. She moves through life trusting that she already belongs, not because she's trying to fit in, but because she's learned that fitting in was never the goal. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same is true for a strong woman. She doesn't waste time explaining her worth. She embodies it. She doesn't argue about what confidence looks like. She lives it. And here's the truth. When you stop apologizing for being yourself, the world will notice. Some will admire you, some will envy you, some will try to pull you back into the version of yourself they're more comfortable with. But a wise woman knows she wasn't made to fit into someone else's expectations. She was made to stand out, to shine, to lead, to inspire. And when she walks into a room, her presence speaks for itself. Not because she's demanding attention, but because she's no longer afraid to be seen. If you've ever felt like you needed to hide parts of yourself, your opinions, your voice, your dreams, know this. You weren't made to be small. You weren't designed to blend in. You were meant to rise, fully, boldly, and without apology. So embrace yourself, fully, fiercely, and without hesitation. Stop waiting for permission to be exactly who you are, because the moment you stop apologizing for yourself is the moment you step into your true power. And when you do, the world can't help but take notice. 8. Walking boldly in your divine purpose. Some women don't chase opportunities. They attract them. They don't beg to be seen. They shine naturally. Their life unfolds with a rhythm that feels effortless, as if everything seems to align just when they need it most. But that kind of grace doesn't come from luck. It comes from something far deeper: purpose. A woman who walks in her purpose carries a quiet strength that's impossible to ignore. She moves with intention, knowing that every step she takes, no matter how small, is shaping her destiny. She trusts that what's meant for her will find her, not because she's waiting passively, but because she's prepared herself to receive it. That's the key: preparation. Opportunities don't just happen for her. She's spent years sharpening her skills, investing in her growth, and building the kind of mindset that turns setbacks into stepping stones. And because of that, when the right door opens, she's ready to walk through it. But walking in your purpose doesn't always feel powerful at first. In fact, it often feels quiet, like planting seeds you're not sure will grow. It's waking up early to pursue a dream no one believes in yet. It's turning down paths that look easier because you know they're not right for you. It's making decisions that confuse others because they can't see what you're building. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." A strong woman understands this. She knows that challenges aren't signs to turn back. They're signs she's moving in the right direction. Every rejection, every delay, every unexpected detour, they aren't obstacles. They're the very steps that shape her success. When a woman understands this, she stops questioning her path. She no longer compares her timeline to anyone else's. While others rush, she moves steadily. While others panic, she remains grounded. While others doubt their purpose, she embraces hers, fully and unapologetically. And people notice. They may not always understand her confidence, but they can't deny its presence. There's something magnetic about a woman who knows where she's going, even if no one else can see the destination yet. She doesn't waste her energy chasing approval or begging people to believe in her vision. Instead, she invests that energy in building the life she knows she's meant to live. And somehow, the right people, the ones who understand her, find their way into her circle. The right opportunities arrive, not because she's lucky, but because her preparation made her ready. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." A wise woman takes this to heart. She doesn't just dream about the life she wants, she steps into it. Every action, every choice, every sacrifice, they're all building her future. But here's what's most powerful. A woman who walks boldly in her purpose doesn't do it for recognition. She does it because she knows she was meant for more. She understands that her journey isn't just about her success. It's about becoming the kind of woman who inspires others to rise as well. And that's what makes her unforgettable. It's not her appearance, her status, or her connections. It's the energy she carries. It's the quiet strength that tells the world, I know who I am. I know what I'm here to do. And no one can take that from me. If you've ever felt like you're still searching for your path, if you've questioned whether your efforts are even making a difference, don't lose heart. Purpose isn't something you find overnight. It's something you build, step by step, choice by choice, moment by moment. Some days it will feel like progress. Other days it will feel like nothing's changing at all. But keep going, because those quiet steps you're taking, they're shaping you. They're preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. And when the right opportunity appears, when the path ahead finally makes sense, you'll know. Because you won't just be ready, you'll be walking boldly in the life you were always meant to live. The path to becoming a woman who stands strong, confident, and unshaken is not about luck. It's about choice. Every decision you make to embrace your power, to trust your instincts, and to walk boldly in your purpose is shaping you into the person you were always meant to be. But growth doesn't happen overnight. It's built through practice, through small choices that add up over time. Each time you choose to walk away from what doesn't serve you, you become stronger. Each time you trust your inner voice instead of doubting yourself, you gain wisdom. Each time you embrace your scars as proof of your resilience, you remind yourself that nothing, no heartbreak, no betrayal, no setback, can break a woman who refuses to stay down. The strength you admire in others isn't out of reach. It's already within you. Every experience you've survived, every battle you've fought, and every silent victory you've claimed has prepared you for this. All you have to do now is believe it. So start small. Practice trusting yourself in everyday moments, whether it's choosing to speak up when you're unsure, walking away from energy that drains you, or giving yourself permission to take up space without apology. The more you practice, the stronger you'll become, not just in your mind, but in your spirit. And when doubt creeps in, when you feel like giving up or questioning your worth, remember this: you've already overcome more than you realize. You've already proven your strength. Now it's time to live like you believe it. Your story isn't over. It's unfolding, beautifully, powerfully, and the best chapters are still ahead. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you faced a moment where trusting yourself changed everything? Share your story in the comments below, because your voice matters, and you never know who you might inspire.